knowing that I am beautiful without needing anyone to tell me that I am, because of who made me, And so honoring that, honoring myself, honoring my body from the inside out, and loving myself genuinely and authentically.
I'm Bree Van Zutphen, and this is the Clarity and Calm podcast. Movement of the physical body has always been a way to transmute and dance with my energy. My discovery of yoga amplified this process and brought my soul into the conversation. My discovery of breath and meditation brought my heart and mind into dialogue with one another. I hope to offer space for others to cultivate a greater harmony within themselves. My soul knows that personal evolution will lead to planetary evolution. Hi everybody, I'm so excited for today's guest, Alicia Ace Easter. I met Ace at the yoga studio we both taught at, and I was just so immediately drawn to her energy. She is so full of love and just compassion for just everyone she interacted with. She shares through vulnerability and a true openness that is just such a strength and comes through in everything she does. And so Ace is a yoga meditation teacher. She's also a reiki practitioner. She's the creator of I Am Free, which is yoga and meditation and intention setting workshops that she leads all throughout California. She has co-hosted retreats with national best-selling author Jennifer Pastiloff in Italy and France. And most recently, she created the I Am Candle collection. So each of these candles has a specific intention and affirmation you can connect to. I actually just received mine from my husband the other day as a gift, and it's absolutely amazing. So go get yours. And without further ado, let's welcome Ace to the Clarity and Calm podcast. Yay, we're recording!
We're recording!
So, hi everybody, this is the Clarity and Calm podcast, and I'm Bree, as you know, and this is actually the first episode in which we have a guest, and I'm so excited for today's guest. It's Ace, and if you don't know Ace, you should. She's phenomenal. She's such a heart-centered individual, and just everything she's been doing has been so inspiring. And I have to say, Ace, before this, I was slightly anxious because I'm it's my first interview. And then I connected with your energy. I closed my eyes and I was like, we're gonna connect to our hearts together. And then I felt grounded and I felt like a big smile of joy. So you sent that even if you didn't know it, so thank you.
Hey,
so welcome, Ace.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, beautiful Bree. This is amazing. And so I'm so glad you received my smile that I just brings me so much joy when I'm able to, and this might sound weird, but get used to loving yourselves, people. When you look inside, look at yourself and you smile at yourself first thing in the morning, it's the best feeling ever. So, I'm grateful that you could receive that, and it's gonna be fun. We're chatting, we're talking, girl talk.
Yeah. Yes, I'm so excited for it, and I'm just gonna put out there that I wanted to start most of these podcasts with some grounding or centering, just because I find that, at least for myself, sometimes I'm listening to things from the head up. And even then, I'm listening to things just partially, just in the background. And so I find that it might be useful for us to really ground, not only in our heart space, in our bodies, but just also have more of a focused attention, because I just want everyone to hear the valuable nuggets of wisdom that Ace has to share. So, Ace,
boy.
Yeah, no, it's true though. You already are it. But Ace graciously agreed to ground us for a few moments. So that's what we're gonna start with. So take it away.
Yeah, let's just all get comfortable wherever we are. And if you're driving, listening to this, obviously don't close your eyes, please. But just let's get centered in our sacral chakra. Let's get centered in our creative space of birthing ideas. Let's center our focus there, just below our belly button. Yeah. Feel whatever sensations that might come up. If there's none, that's okay. I feel like we all could use a little bit of childlike wonder and joy, curiosity, questioning, going with the flow. And just begin taking a deep breath, inhale through your nose. And then sigh it out, let it go. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out, let it go. This time I want you to inhale through your nose. Gently seal your lips and exhale through your nose. One more like that, friends. Today, we invite you to check back in with your childlike wonder, your creative space, your joy, your wondering, your going with the flow. May it ease your heart, making space to see more clearly through your third eye. And remember, your breath is always available to you. So let's take one more together. Inhale. And exhale. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was awesome, Bree.
Oh, that was awesome, Ace. Thank you so much. I could
Thank
feel
you.
your heart. I could feel your heart.
Thank you. I think I needed that for myself as well. I think that we, as was asked this question on a class that I was taking with Tracy Stanley the other day, and she was like, "What are, where do you get your inspiration for what you teach?" And my answer was, I teach what I need. Mm-hmm. And because if I need it, then I'm certainly not alone in the in the world of the only person who might be needing this sort of whatever I'm guiding that day. So yeah.
Totally. I feel the exact same. I always say to myself, I'm like, if it's in one, it's in all. And so I'm just experiencing a portion of what's in the collective, and it's my job, if I'm experiencing it, to state it, to name it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. To name it. I love that, to state it and to name it, because I think that we're leaders and teachers for a reason and guides for a reason. So we tap in, and I think that people don't look, I trust that now people don't look to teachers as these perfect beings, just we're human beings, but also kind of looking to us because we have invested and made the conscious choice and chose the calling that our guides bestowed upon us to delve deeper into these things that's inside of all of us. But we just decided to go a little deeper and to invest a little bit more so that we can, contribute our part to the collective.
I completely could not agree more. And I think that's all it is just a decision to go a step deeper and then be like, hey guys, this is where I'm at. You can come along if you want, And it's not like this perfected being. It's just like, oh, I've taken this step. Like, I cultivated the willingness and I took this step, and here we are.
Here
Like,
we are.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, man. Totally true. So I just wanted to ask you, and with it ties into that, what has been coming up for you, or what's going on in your heart right now? Like, how's your heart?
Oh my gosh, I love that question.
Yeah, me too.
It's my favorite. Um, Gosh, Bree, what's in my heart right now is a a caring of like space where I just don't want to any of the decisions that I make to, and I don't think any of the decisions that I'm going to make are going to hurt anyone, but I don't want to hurt anyone's like feelings or ideas of me and what they think I should be doing in the decisions that I'm going to make for my own betterment. So I'm in this place right now where I'm like, I know that what I'm doing every single day for work is really tugging at me as not being what I'm put here to do.
Mhm.
And it's good work that I do. It's honest work. I work with a great team, but I am having I'm just having moments right now where it's not, I'm just like having to make some decisions. And I think that that's why I'm in my sacral chakra. I feel like, have been really focusing a lot there and just being really really sensitive in that area because I want to create more. I want these ideas that I have to be birthed and to come to life. And I am just, that's on my heart. It's just really trusting and having faith in God um, that it's all going to work out and that whatever decision that I make, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be protected. I'm going to be fed. I'm not going to be homeless. I'm going to be taken care of. And like I always have been throughout my life. And so I'm having a lot of that is in my heart right now. And just kind of like just taking what I've already created and taking it to the next level and really owning myself and saying I'm this brand, without whatever people think about when people say I am this brand, it's like letting go of that narrative that, as Jen says, like bullshit stories and narratives that are just no longer, they don't belong to me anymore. I can wholeheartedly say that I am a brand and a way of which this is part of my activism. This is part of what I am put here to do. So that's just on my heart to just take the leap right now, just have a leap of faith and just keep the faith, honestly, and trusting God and trusting my skills, trusting what I've invested in myself. Um, and that's it, really.
Yeah. It's not funny, it makes perfect sense, but I'm going through exactly a similar thing where I think that there's just a breaking down of all this kind of false security that I was leaning against before. And now it's like, okay, it's safe to be who you are because all of these other things are falling down, and now's the time. Like,
Yeah.
now's the time. And trusting, like you said, cultivating the faith that, like, the greatest gift you can offer people, and your way of contributing and my way of contributing, is gonna be the best medicine. And I always thought that I had to be like, well, you got to be an activist, or you have to be this, or you have to
Yeah.
be this. And that is just like your way of being your highest self, and showing that to the world is automatically going to be the best medicine.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so I think that we all, as healers and space holders had to come to that realization. I think at the top of, for me as an African American woman, I had to like reckon with the fact that like, I see so many of, my people that like look like me, and then also we have amazing allies out there that don't look like me, that are just like fighting for justice for all. I'm like, I'm not called to go out there to march, and it's just not, something that has really been my jam. But what has been my jam is, first of all, acknowledging like what works for me, and what I can do with ease and without even thinking a second about it. So when people ask me like how they can contribute, how they can participate, how they can be allies and activists, I'm like, do start with something that is like breathing to you, and then go from there, and then add the other stuff. But if we start right, I mean, it's like starting in a yoga class where the teacher is like, okay, so we're going to start on our heads in handstand in the middle of the room, and you never taken a yoga class before. The likelihood of you coming back to yoga is probably really slim, because you're going to think that's all that yoga is. So it's the same thing with like activism. It's the same thing with, anything that you do, anything that's new to you that you want to start, find a nugget, find the pocket of where you can add in what comes with ease. So
Totally.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I just want to also acknowledge, like, saying this from a place of being like a white woman in the wellness world of privilege. So automatically, this is like maybe easier for me to come to or stay. But just that, like, what I was seeing was other people's ideas of what we should be doing.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm seeing this post, I'll repost it. I'm seeing this thing, I should be doing this. And, like, I don't think that my perception is that that's not what this is calling for. Like, find your unique, authentic way of
Yeah.
contributing.
Yep. Absolutely. Because then, I mean, and yeah, and that's with, that's with anything, finding, that's why, I think that it shifted something in me starting this year, and already knowing what I know now. But really, I think everyone was charged differently. I think that everyone was fueled with a different perspective of some sorts of like, what am I doing here? Like what am I going to keep? What is my part here? What is my purpose? And in June, really just kind of at the start of sheltering in place, you're like, okay, so it's going to be 3 weeks, and then they're going to find a cure, and we're all going to go back to normal. And then it's like, no, it's now September, and we've all had to shift. That was a whole like, okay, and seeing how many people were dying and continue to die every single day from this virus. And then also the disparities in wealth in our country, and then the disparities in diversity and inclusion in the wellness spaces, and then really just kind of any space where real change is happening, it's not diverse, it's not inclusive. And so really reckoning with the fact of like, nah, I got to be doing something that's going to be moving the needle. I can't just be going with the motions anymore. I can't, as uncomfortable as my life might get, as uncomfortable as it's going to be, as this decision might be, I'm making it uncomfortable. I'm adding all these layers to it, because that's the universe's plan for my life is smooth. It's with ease. It's us that gets in the way. It's me that gets in the way of like being, adding in how we want to do it, adding in our control, adding in, okay, but could you just only do this, and then I can do this, and then, so really just checking myself, checking like the privileges that I already have, and being like, okay, like this, everyone's having to sacrifice right now, and Black people have always had to sacrifice. So I know that in my sacrifice and my continued, you know, fight for justice, fight for voice, to fight for, you know, the voices of Black women, Black people, really, I mean, Black women.
Specifically in the wellness world,
yes,
too.
especially in the wellness world. It's like, okay, I gotta get serious. I gotta get real. I gotta get uncomfortable. I gotta cry. I gotta make some moves. I gotta get upset. I gotta get angry, but use this as a tool. All of this energy, all of these emotions, everything, use it as a tool to further my mission rather than hinder me in this like place that I no longer belong to.
Completely. Thank you for being just a living example of that.
Thank you for
And
seeing me.
oh my gosh. I just thank you. Thank you. I completely feel like if I'm in a place of privilege, and I'm still learning, so I don't want to say this with any authority, but if I'm in a place of privilege, how can I not show up fully? How can I not be my authentic self? Because I have all of this stuff that's buffered me up to where I am. How can I not do that? Like, there's no time for excuses anymore. There's just no time, you know?
Yeah.
And I was listening to, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it correctly, but Miriam Hassan.
Oh, Hasnia. Oh
Hasnia,
my gosh.
thank you.
That is
I'm
like,
so glad you said it finally. I've been just like butchering her name. But
so,
yes! Oh my God. Oh, yeah. But she's talking about, like, you know, the matrix, and she's like, you have to be aware, like, when you're in the matrix, and you can change things from within the matrix, but just be aware you're in the matrix.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and sometimes I'm just like, oh, I see this old programming. This no longer resonates with who I am becoming. Mm-hmm. It just no longer resonates. Mm-hmm. And starting by even realizing, like, oh, this is programming. This is conditioning. This is a past habit. All of that, just recognizing it, like, name it and tame it, you know?
Yep. That's, wow. We can have a whole nother podcast on how she has, you know, shifted my being and my thinking. And, you know, how I check back in with myself and how I come back to spirit, come back to my internal, first and foremost, come back to my God, my angels, my spirit guides, like, you know, my ancestors, and yeah, really just like checking in first, and checking in with first. Yeah. I mean, you can't do anything without intention and without, I mean, you can, but you can't, but really to move the needle is an acknowledgement of what you have in front of you. It's like, okay, so all right, let's just do a recount. Let's just do an inventory of what I have already. And then, all right, so here's where I need to move. This is what I need to do. And then like bringing other things like to enhance upon what you already have while you're shedding things along the way. Because yeah, we can drop things and we don't want to end up empty shells. So we just, as we drop, we call back in things that we might have lost along the way, or someone might have, you know, put a veil over us or told us that we couldn't do something because of, for whatever reason. But I think that's the issue, is that people are afraid to acknowledge, like, I don't know if you follow Elizabeth Gilbert on Instagram, but she just posted something with, that Glennon Doyle did this interview. And did you watch it?
I didn't, but those women, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, she was like, Glennon Doyle was really calling out like white women that are her, you know, and really calling it out and calling and saying like, but if we don't do this, that means that you can be, if you don't acknowledge first and foremost, this is what you might not have had anything to do with anything bad that happened to anybody. However, you were complacent in the fact that like never recognizing your privilege that came just because of the color of your skin, just because of the gender that you were born in. Right. And so if you don't recognize that, if you don't make peace with your ancestors, if you don't hold your ancestors accountable, like just in the same way where I have just recently over the last year found out like my father's birthday, because my father was not a part of our lives growing up. He had his own demons that he had to deal with, and he passed away in 1999. And I believe he'd cleaned up, from what I can recall, just having conversations with my grandfather, that he'd cleaned up his life, you know, and it was really beautiful to hear that, but also just kind of made me a little upset, because it was like, how could you have not wanted to be a part of our lives? How could you be half of me? I am half of you, and you not want to be engaged with me at all. And, but then making peace with that, making peace with, you know, the decisions that my mother made that, I just didn't understand why she made them until I became an adult. I don't have kids, but I just now get her way of thinking, that she had us, me and my brother and I, she was responsible for. So she made, you know, when you're responsible for another human being, the life of another human being, you think different. You have to. I mean, if you're not thinking different, that is where I think that where my father lied. He lied on that part of the spectrum where he wasn't thinking different. He was thinking self. But again, he was caught up in his own addiction and whatnot that he had to manage, because he had not reckoned and he had not laid down the burdens that were bestowed upon his ancestors, his parents, that were intrinsically placed inside of him at birth, you know, and that I experienced, you know, in my life, the things that my mother experienced, you know, that was placed inside of her. So making peace and forgiveness and understanding with their souls in the afterlife has been a huge relief and freedom, a part of my freedom over this last year. And my mom died 18 years ago. And like I said, my father died 20 years ago. So really just making peace with just the two people who brought me into this life. I think that people making peace with the people closest to them right away, and calling them on the carpet about it, getting mad at them, and then holding them accountable still in the afterlife. You can still do that. I feel like, and be like, no, that was a bad decision, Mom, or that was a bad decision, Dad. Like, affected me, but it is now my responsibility to, take hold of my healing and take control of my healing, and taking control of like not letting their burdens keep me imprisoned any longer.
I completely agree. What are some of those burdens, if you don't mind sharing, that you've been working through? I'm sure there's quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I don't mind sharing, because I think that just like sharing is, you know, if there's, I won't share what I don't want to share, but it is a forgiveness with for my mother, her relationship that she had with money. So a learned behavior that I saw subconsciously. And so my relationship with money, just really, you know, navigating that and changing that perspective. And it's a worthiness associated, an energy associated with money that I'm sure Mom wasn't tapped into, because I just learned about it over the last few years. So really making peace with that, and just doing the best that I can each and every day to shift that perspective that I have with money. And also another one about relationships, right? Like, I was in a 7-year relationship. We were engaged, and it, you know, we both grew up in situations that had been toxic throughout our childhood, right? Like, it wasn't all bad, but it was definitely not all like unicorns and rainbows. And so I think that we met at a time when we were both transitioning and just kind of trying to figure out what we were going to do. So there was a trauma bond. I didn't know what a trauma bond was when I first met him, but now knowing what that was, it was like, oh yeah, 100%. I used to say, God, I really can't be in a relationship with anyone if they've not been through anything. And we would say that to each other. And it's like, How that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy thinking about that now, but it made sense then because we didn't know any better. There was no one like really teaching us, okay, so this is how a healthy relationship works. And yes, people are going to disagree, but this is how you can fight fair, and really seeing, not just telling us, but really having that modeled. So really just making peace with the fact that I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I didn't know how to be in a healthy relationship. I really just didn't know how to fight fair. It was like it was like 0 to 100 with me when I used to have a really bad temper. It's because growing up, I didn't feel safe to really have a healthy outlet, and so really just learning that and just forgiving myself now after our relationship ended, but really seeing that, okay, we were both navigating some codependency, trauma bounds, like all of these things that we were taking on from our parents, taking on from what was modeled for us. So another thing, so that's relationships, it's finances, it's also just kind of like ensuring that a worthiness as far as like for me of beauty, not just being associated to what a man thinks of me, what the opposite sex thinks of me, and taking that power back that I'd given away and that had been taken away from me at a few times in my life. So really just taking that power back and knowing that I am beautiful without needing anyone to tell me that I am because of who made me, And so honoring that, honoring myself, honoring my body from the inside out, and loving myself genuinely and authentically. So really that's something. And my mom definitely loved herself. I definitely saw a little bit of like, just questioning just because of the things that she'd been through in her life, like, and the experience that she dealt with, like with my ex-stepfather, and just like seeing her every single day, just like do the best that she can to raise us with what she knew, like, I think that just doing the best that she could, forgiving her for that, understanding that I was doing the best that I could in this past relationship, and forgiving myself for that, and then forgiving my mom's, and then also just getting a little angry at her too for not making decisions that benefited us, so just kind of things that you would probably get annoyed with your mom probably like now in life, that I still kind of get annoyed with her, even though she's not literally here. But sometimes I'm like, oh, why couldn't you just like do it this way? And then it's just like, okay, cool. Then you're back good again. You have a little bickering session with your mom and then it's like, okay, now we're back good. Now it's like, she's back mom. So those are just like really big things that I have, and taking care of myself, self-care, and not just like it needing to cost, but all of that is self-care. All of that is like, first of all, I had to start, like we said earlier, acknowledging where I needed to not change, but just change, but really acknowledging like, okay, this isn't healthy. And you can either continue operating your life in this, going down this path, and you might end up here, or you can go down the path that is smooth, that the universe has allotted for you, that God has planned for you, and be patient. So, yeah.
Wow, there's so many things in that I was like, yes, also this. Oh my gosh, what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That was a lot. I know. That was a lot. I know. But I'm intense in a very loving way. One of my friends is like, you're so intense, but like very loving. But it's because
I think that, I just hear in your voice too, and I'm going through something similar where it's just like learning through a bit of joy and understanding. Rather than like, at least for me, I used to be like very self-punishing when I'm learning. Like I would need to learn the same lesson.
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh, gosh, Bree, you have to learn this again.
Yeah.
And then instead of just being like, oh, you get to learn this. Oh my gosh, like this is something that you're evolving, you're growing, and it's okay. learning through joy, learning through joy. Like lessons don't, you get to choose how you learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that for the longest time. Like, I thought that I'm like, every lesson has to be tough. I have to punish myself in the process
Yeah.
and then get really mad that I haven't learned the lesson. You
Uh-huh.
know, rather than being like, I accept this like with ease. Like, I see this as something that I'm growing through. I'm going to be kind to myself and I'm going to move through this with like knowing that this is something that I get to learn. This is
Yeah.
something I get to learn
Yep.
and
That.
I get to evolve.
Yep. Yep. I love that you said I get to. That's my when I'm having, when I remember, when I know I'm having like a I gotta do this, this, and this. It's like let's reverse that and say I get to have these sort of things that I get to do because I am blessed. I am living in abundance. I am, you know, being called upon. I am being called upon. I'm being interviewed. I'm being asked. I'm being trusted, you know? So that's a big thing for me, is like being able to be trusted and, you know, allowed to to just kind of grow and glow on my own, and but more than anything, just trust, and trust is a big thing for me, and honesty, and then also just being able to forgive and be forgiven. So I think that that's a really big those are big things for me that I get to learn every single day, and I'm just trusting that whoever I get to experience life with, friendships, relationships, colleagues, work, partnerships, then they are reflective of that same energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the get to living through joy, period.
Exactly. Totally. 100%. Um, I, speaking of Miriam again, she has, as I'm sure you know, like that saying that's like, I am on purpose. And rather than being like, this is my purpose, because I think that if this is my purpose, like if you're going for something that is that kind of elusive, you'll never get there. But if each moment you can connect to like, I'm learning through joy, I get to do this now, and each moment becomes the purpose rather than like this, like, oh, well, I'm still searching for my purpose. I don't know when I'm going to get there, you know, because for a long time, at least for me, that was like the huge struggle, was like, I don't know what my purpose is, but I don't know. And there'd be so much time spent learning that lesson, I should say. Learning that, you know, I'm already it.
Yeah.
I'm already it. And I was
Yep.
waiting for permission for someone to give me like the permission slip, or like the green light to be like, it's safe to be who you are now, Brie. It's safe to be who you are. And like, instead of just being like, wow, yeah, I really feel that. Like, it's safe to be who I am. And that's enough. Who I am is enough.
Yep. I love that. I am on purpose.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That, I mean, maybe I've seen her write it out. I mean, I follow her on Instagram and on Twitter. So, but it just, I receive that, Brie.
Yeah.
Like that is like something where you're like, you are absolutely right, because some people don't, you know, when we sign, you know, when I'm hosting, you know, when we're doing our workshops, right? Like when we're doing, you know, you're doing your retreats and whatnot, it's like people need permission to invest in themselves, permission to, you know, go and do something just for them, right? So you find that in some of my writing when I'm promoting is, hey, if you needed the permission, this is the permission.
Yeah.
If you're looking for permission to attend a 2-hour workshop on a Saturday or on a Sunday or during the week, then this is your permission, especially if it's going to be something that's going to be benefiting you and helping you grow from the place where you are now, or just simply something for you to just do that is not, that no one is expecting anything from you. You literally just show up and receive. And so I love that. I am on purpose. Ooh, I love that.
And I find that, at least in my experience of teaching or leading retreats or anything, sometimes we'll halfway accept that, you know, me included. I include myself in that. Like sometimes it'll be like, Well, I'll invest in myself, but I'll only like dabble.
Yeah.
I'm only gonna like just a little bit and then I'm gonna back out. And I'm like, why not go all in?
Yeah.
Like, what do
Right.
you think this life is? Like, if
Right.
you want it to be about like, I don't know, working maybe a job you don't like, how much money you have in the bank, all of those things, like, fine, but know that that's what you're investing your time and your energy in. And if you want to like do the deep work and like evolve your soul, I mean, that sounds hella exciting to me.
Yes. 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 I mean, like, oh my gosh, I love that. Like, just do it. Like, here it is. Like, here is, yeah. And, you know, I don't think it's easier said than, I mean, I can recognize that for some, it is easier said than done. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and be an asshole. Like, it's just do it. You know, it's just so easy. It's like, no. For others, it's a little bit more hoops that you feel like you might have to jump over because you are beholden to taking care of a family, being a head of household, like kids, like, you know, caretaker to your elderly parents. Like, there's so many, I mean, you know, let's just like systematic racism, economic racism, you know, so all of these different things that we have, that some people have more barriers to than others.
Mm-hmm.
But just really acknowledging that, I think that simply stating that once you see that I am on purpose, there's no like accident in your existence, then
Mm-hmm.
no matter what your mom might have said, your dad or someone being like, you were the oops baby or whatever, like, no, you in this life is on purpose. Like,
Yeah.
you in this life is on purpose. Like, there's no accident in your existence. And I remember when I started reading The Purpose Driven Life, the book by Rick Warren, he, that first sentence when you open the book is, you are no accident.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you believe in God, universe, angels, you know, miracles, anything like that, you can acknowledge that your existence here is a miracle and it is not on accident. It was planned out, it was needed. And also the things, and the things that you experience along life, like Scott and I were actually having a conversation about this last weekend, is like, um, it's as hard as it is to have experienced the things that I've experienced, some of the things that have just been so traumatic, then they were unfortunately a part of the story. They were a part of it all. They were a part of it. And yeah, if we could wish and we could shoulda, coulda, woulda all we did all day, but why not use that now? Why not use that as fuel? Why not use that as a teachable moment for just not other people, but for myself, when we get into this like moment of like, well, what is my purpose? Like you were just saying, like, what am I like supposed to do? And you just like sit around and you longingly look out the window, and it's just like, well, if you look at the mirror and you smile and you see, that is your reason. You right there.
Exactly. Yeah. And thank you so much for naming that. I by no means like mean to bypass any systems of oppression or anything
Oh, of
like that
course
with
not.
that.
Of course not. Yeah.
But what I mean is like start where you are. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, like look in the mirror and be like, I'm on purpose. This is where I'm supposed to be right now. Walk down the street, like you engage in a smile or a conversation with someone. That's on purpose. Like that's part of the universal plan. That's like where you need to be because it's where you are, you
Yep.
know? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I would love to ask you just like because we kind of touched on it a little bit and I think it would be super helpful, like how do you walk through fear though? Because I think that that's sometimes an obstacle for people is like the fear or the anxiety that can be built around living your purpose, being on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Um, I love that you asked this question. Thank you. Because it's an everyday practice for me. There's not a day that goes by where I am not, you know, I am not acknowledging that, okay, we've gotten to here, but we are still, I mean, there's some days where I'm not as nervous as others or not as like worried. But what has helped me, about 3 months ago, I was, every day I have the Bible app on my phone, and they have every day these stories. It's almost like Instagram stories where it's up for 24 hours, and then it's a different teaching, different message every day. And they have like scripture about it. There's a theme, there's a quick reading, and then there's a video sometimes of like some person that they have read from the scripture of the day. And I remember one of the teachers, one of the pastors that was speaking, said that he had a God jar, and he would take a piece of paper that he would write a note on, take a piece of paper, write a note on it, and write whatever was worrying him in that moment, whatever worries that he had. He would write that on the piece of paper, and then he would fold it up, and he would put it in his God jar. Like, he would just put it in his God jar. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And he said, because you put it in your God jar, then that means that you've given it to God. You've given it to him, and he can handle it. You cannot. Mm-hmm. And so when you worry again, you have to think like, okay, well, let me go get that worry back from God, because obviously he can't handle it. How'd I sound? Right. So it's like, okay, so, and you could put the same worry in there every single day. I have the same worry in there. I don't know how many times. Right. But that is really something where I think about when I feel like my fear is starting to get the best of me. It's like, okay, remember, you gave this to God. So this is not yours. This is not your worry. This is not your burden. Remember. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Whew. Okay. All right. Woo. Thank goodness. Somebody else is responsible for that, not me. Okay. And so that has really helped me walk through fear and walk with fear as I'm moving into these arenas where I'm not, expert in, I'm not proficient in, where it's like, okay, but I'm good and I can learn. I learn quickly. I learn fast. I'm smart. So I can do this, because guess what? I don't have to do it alone. So I think that me recognizing that I didn't have to be alone in life. I could trust people. I could break down the walls. I could let the guard down. I mean, that's full transparency. That is part of what the struggle was in my last relationship, is like me not being able to fully trust that my partner was going to take care of what he said he was going to take care of. And there's layers there. There's several reasons. It's not like I just woke up one day and was just like, I can't trust him to get shit done. But it was really like, a lot of it for me was just me not trusting myself. And me not trusting myself in turn turned into this, like, me not being able to trust this person, where maybe if I did trust him, he could have gotten it done. Maybe if I did back away a little bit and not maybe like try and control it, because we're not really controlling anybody else. We're not really micromanaging someone else, right? We're really micromanaging ourselves. We're really living in fear for ourselves. We're really telling our internal body and the universe that we can't be trusted when we don't lay down these worries, when we don't lay down these fears, these doubts, these burdens. When we don't give them to God, like, God isn't putting this on us. We're putting it on us. And so when we just let go, when we drop our shoulders and surrender, that has been a big thing for me, to be able to surrender and to just full stop, like, trust and surrender. Then that definitely helps me walk along with fear and bringing fear to the forefront when I need to be protected, but not letting it lead the way in every single day, in every single way. So yes. It's a long answer.
No, it's the perfect answer. Yeah, I think that also what I've noticed for me too is like surrender might not happen immediately. Like sometimes that just takes like, how do I even articulate? Like bite-sized pieces of it. Like I see this pattern of control in my whatever career, blah 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 blah. But I also control with how I like to pour my tea. And maybe maybe I let that go a little bit. You know, maybe I practice and start there because the other thing seems really big right now. So maybe I just practice a little bit here. And what I've realized, you know, is like that's when you start to strengthen your nervous system. That's when you get the capacity to be able to handle the big surrender. Because sometimes if I just see the big thing, I'm like, what? I can't start. I'm like frozen. But if I see like the cup of tea and me being like controlling when my husband's pouring it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let that one slide.
We're gonna let that one ride. We're gonna let him pour on our Lipton, tea bag, and be like, okay. And then deep down inside, we're working to trust that he could have poured it in this way. I love him.
But I'm gonna let it go, and I'm gonna know I'm gonna notice the response in my body, and I'm gonna soften around it. I'm gonna teach myself this way, and bit by bit, I know that it's gonna happen. Yeah.
Exactly. And like starting, you know, in the like, I love that you said in those small things of being like, okay, just like let this go, like, okay. And so and I think what I'm learning and now being spending so much time by myself because we've been sheltering in place and really being alone and feeling, you know, lonely as well. You know, like that was a real like emotion that had come up, and feeling lonely and feeling like, oh my gosh, like questioning whether or not like I'll, you know, be in a relationship again and all these kind of things. Like you start just going down this rabbit hole of future thinking that just can make you go crazy. But really just starting with, okay, taking this as an opportunity to see, okay, gosh, I am really like annoying myself in how I respond to how my water is poured, or whether it's cold or hot, or, you know, how something is necessarily set up in the house. And it's just like really not that big of a deal. And when you are with yourself and you can sit and be with yourself, you can like have some space to check yourself on things that it just really doesn't matter. It's just really not that big of a deal. There's so many things we make big for whatever reason to really be a buffer, I feel like, and I could be wrong here because this is just really coming to me right here in this conversation. Just, I think we make things a buffer to what is really happening inside of us. Like really that's close, that is in our heart, that is in our, like I said, my sacral, my root, like my heart, my mind, like really my throat, how I speak to myself, how I speak about myself, how I speak about myself without opening my mouth, what I think about myself, like really sitting with those things that are close, that are, if we wanted to label anything big, those are the big things. The outward stuff, the stuff that others see, that don't matter. I mean, it's like, that's just a big old buffer to distract us from doing the work that is really important, and that's starting from within. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
that makes perfect sense. That spoke right to it for sure. Yeah, completely. Yeah. I also just think like that brought up for me, like, it sounds silly, like the making the tea and like being upset with my husband, whatever. And then it's just like, the reality is that is like a moment of what I call like grace time, where you get to actually start to dig and get underneath the root of what that small trigger is actually representing. Which is something larger and something big. And so it seems silly to point out a moment like that, but those moments happen like literally all of the time. And they're actually the way, it's like the universe being like, here's the breadcrumb to start untangling what you're holding on to, what's burdening you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a really freeing place when you can spend some time with with like all of this, all of what we're sharing. It's a really freeing place to be able to sit with yourself, sit with like the shadow, sit with the light, and sit with the hard things that, you know, we were filling with events and teaching and work and friends and, you know, lunches and dinners and, you know, fillers that are beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. Life is beautiful, but really when you can sit with no distractions, that's really when the healing started to really begin for me.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you sit with yourself, yourself, like, how do you work with your emotions? Like, what is your process? Like, how does that go for you? Because I feel like it's a pretty individual process. There's some commonalities, but how does Ace work through that?
What work with sitting with my
with difficult emotions, with triggers, sitting with yourself when things come up? Like, how does that look for you? Like, for me, it looks like being really angry and then feeling tightening in my entire body and then working somatically with my body to release the tension there so that my mind can be open enough for me to start to untangle the knot in my mind. Mm-hmm. But I feel like everybody, depending on just like your unique you, works with it differently, you know?
God, that's a really, I hadn't thought about that in a while, but how I sit with myself lately, the stuff that where I need to make, like when I'm able to really see, okay, we gotta fix this, or we gotta do something about this. Cause this is I'm having the same lesson pop up. I'm having the same story come top of mind. So I honestly talk a lot to myself. And then I see kind of similarly, like you said, you check in with your body. You're like, okay, so where am I feeling this? Where am I feeling, where am I in my body today? And I've been in my head and I've been in my heart a lot lately. And I'm like, okay, so here's as I sit with myself, I think about this, and I'm going to be honest, I reach for a distraction. Mm-hmm. I reach for a distraction, whatever it be on my phone, whatever it be on TV. And then I say, okay, well, I've distracted myself enough. It's still sitting there. It's like a thing that's, well, you're either going to deal with this now, or you're going to deal with it 4 hours from now, or you're going to deal with it after you've binged an entire series from now. It's still going to be there. So do you want to just get to it? All right, let's get to it. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm done distracting myself, still feeling in the same parts of my body, still feeling in the same place in my body. And then I do a meditation. And I do a meditation where I'm either led by someone like Tracy Stanley or Miriam Hasnia, or I lead myself, or I use my Calm app. And when I lead myself, that's when a lot of the stuff comes up to surface. It's like, okay, girl, like you're guided by these amazing teachers. You have this ability, you have this bandwidth of healers that you can go to, but yet still we have to be with ourselves. So I do my meditation. I do some movement, yoga, stretching, and then I start to write. It out. I really start to write it out. And nothing feels better to me than being able to write it all out, write what's no longer serving me, get it out of my body. I used to go to a hot yoga class and sweat it out, but you know, the studios are closed now. So that was like that was where I would immediately go. But now I'm speaking and taking you through not having those distractions that help me get to this place faster. It's a process now. It's a lot more work. And because it's a lot more work, it lasts longer. It sticks because I'm not seeking it instant gratification, instant relief, to where it's going to come back up anyway, but it's like really working through the process in an authentic way. And so I write it out. And then if it's something where I'm like, okay, I wrote that all out, now I'm going to tear it up and I'm going to burn it, and I'm going to free it, burn it, really seal it. I don't know, something about burning things is really like powerful to me. I just did something the other day, burning things that I'd had to name that I wanted to like bring death to, like death to unforgiveness, death to worthy, like feeling unworthy, death to feeling unlovable, things like that. I mean, I made my list a pretty deeper than that. It was pretty long, but and I burnt it, and then I buried it, the ashes, back into the dirt. So it was like giving it back, clearing my grounding cords, and calling up new grounding cords. And this is a part of my process. This is a part of when I sit with, the fear, sit with the stuff, and this is how I work it out. And honestly, for me, I love work. I love working. I love bettering people's day. I love, bringing joy and light and love to my day and the day of anyone else that I get to have any sort of encounter with, and moving the needle for society, so I go and I do my writing still, and I come up with ways, I get into my creative space to come up with ways to continue to add to my, to remind me that I am worthy of love, that I'm brave, I am enough, I am beautiful, and I'm free. So it's really just kind of those sort of things that it's a whole thing. And this is not just like a one day thing. Like say one day we've done it. No, this can be a whole week. This can be a whole month. This could be, and me crying and really, really having a good cry is part of my process too. So, and again, I don't cry every day. I mean, I have had my moments during these last 6 months or so where I cry every day, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm crying every single day. But I do acknowledge when the tears are sweet, rather than salty. So so that's a little of my process. And I get, like I said, I use social media as a tool to check in with teachers like Miriam Hasnia and you, Bree, and your inspirational writings, and really things that are reminders to me that okay, I'm human and I'm a spiritual being having this human experience. And so it's a journey, sis. It's a journey. Yeah.
Some days I'm able to handle the journey with so much grace, and I'm like, I'm so lucky. And then some days I'm like, you're gonna have to drag me today.
Yeah. Oh, girl. Like, that's what I said. That's why I was honest. Like, I go for a distraction because I'm just like, I don't feel like it today. I just want to have my champagne and like go to the pool, and that's it. And play with my cats and sleep, so sleep. Sleep used to be a big thing for me when I was grieving the death of my mother, in college. I would sleep for like 4 hours a day, like in the middle of the day after having a full night's sleep. And so my therapist in college was like, a lot of the time that's how some people deal with grief and depression, is they sleep. Yeah. And I didn't know I just thought I was tired. But I can now see when I have my moments of when I'm needing to sleep a lot, it's like, okay, my body needs this. This is not something that I'm retreating to for depression purposes, but my body needs to rest. So I acknowledge that my body needs to rest now, and I rest. I rest when I need to rest. I sleep when I need to sleep. I wake when I need to wake. And like intentionally thinking that and knowing that is all part of the process, all part of the healing, all part of, freeing myself So, and that took years. That took years. It's not something that happened overnight, you know, like that's progress that's been made over years of practice, of years of practicing and being with my body and knowing my body. So.
Probably lifetimes.
Well, yeah, lifetimes, 100%, 100%. So, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you've been able to get to the point where you can honor that, because that's what self-love is, but not self-love in the woohoo way of like, I'm just gonna love myself, but like really listening to what your soul needs and honoring it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for those nuggets of beautiful wisdom. Yeah. So just a few questions as we tie things up, and anything you feel inclined to share on them. What does love mean to you? That's a big one.
I love love. Breathe. This is like, I'm going to plug a book that really changed my life that I feel like is required reading for everyone. It's called All About Love by Bell Hooks. And
reading it right now, actually.
Yeah. So I saw that. So I read that last year, favorite book of the year. And there's so much that I learned from that, but I love to me is forgiveness. It is love to me is good food. Love to me is in everything that you touch, every person that you touch, every single thing that you do. Love to me is being able to look into someone's eyes and hold space for their soul, like really hold space for their soul. Love is is crying in public. Love is leaning on shoulders and being a shoulder to lean on. That is love to me. Love to me is vulnerability. It is allowing yourself to really be seen and to see people for who they are or who they're projecting themselves to be. And when they're ready to share their authentic selves with you, be ready, but not forcing it any sooner. That is love. And love to me is light giggles and conversations and silly conversations, but also with deep meaning. Love is skipping down the street, holding my niece's hand as we sing and twirl a wand that also is a chopstick that I gave her that was in the back of my car that she is now has a wand. Love is the beauty and the realness of children, spending time with children. Love is seeing how my brother loves my sister-in-law and how they love each other. And even when my brother and I didn't grow up with this model that they're now modeling for their children, that is love. Love is accepting when things need to end. Accepting when things need to end, even when you don't want them to end, but knowing that it's time to free the person and free yourself. Love is my cats and the boundaries that they set for themselves, but then have zero boundaries for other people like me. They are gurus, and that is love. Love is yoga. Love is yoga. Love is the meaning of yoga, the acknowledgement of yoga, the lineages that are honored of yoga. Love is teachers that teach and that show up even when on the days when it's hard. Love is beauty and holding hands with someone that you feel this connected energy, this connection in your palm, this feeling in the bottom of your feet when you are in their energy, when in their space. That is love. Love is lighting a candle and sitting with your ancestors and your spirit guides and letting them wash your feet, so to speak, to hold you close. That is love. Love is a 70-year-old person forgiving themselves, an 80-year-old person forgiving themselves for something that they didn't think that they would have the energy to forgive themselves for before. And love, like I said, there's so many things to me. It's a hug. It's just being seen. And so more than anything, love is me. Love is just me and all of my authenticity, all of my pain, all of my joy, all in my, peace. Love is peace, period. So yeah, love is my sisters, my Black sisters still showing up, still, looking for love, still accepting love, and still working it out for themselves, but yet still not giving it up on humanity. So that is love. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like a little tears coming on, but it's
that's okay. That's okay. I know. I was like, oh my gosh. That's love, man. I love love. I love love. So
you just like started with like the first sentence you said, and I was already like, I'm starting to cry. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Oh my God. I think that is like just the perfect absolute place to kind of close off. I feel like that was just such a gift for everyone's ears. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking. And I love you.
I love you. Oh my gosh. It's literally, I was like, I want the first guest to be Ace.
Oh,
that was just like all that came.
Honor.
I just want the first guest to be Ace. So I'm just so grateful for that. Where can everybody find you? You are doing so many amazing things.
I'm doing so much. I can be found Ace Yoga, ACE Yoga, YOGALA on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I have a candle line I just started. I am Candles by Ace. So you can find that on Instagram as well. I started a podcast, What Are You Bringing podcast, with my co-host Jennifer Pastiloff. So we're on Instagram at WAYB podcast. What Are You Bringing podcast? So can find me there. My website is aceyogala.com. So send me a message. Let's connect. Let's be friends. Let's, shift the needle, change the world, light shit up.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, light shit up. Yeah. I'll put all of those links and everything in the show notes too, so everyone can find you, so they don't have to memorize that all.
Cool.
Oh, thank you so much, Ace, just for
Bree.
you and the light that you are, and just sharing all that you did today. I just so appreciate it, and it's just really a gift for everyone to hear your authenticity. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, beloved. I love you, Bree. Thank you so much for having me and bringing some calm and clarity to my Saturday. Thank you.
Yes. I love you so much. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Clarity and Calm podcast. You'll find all the links below to where and how you can connect with Ace, as well as everything we referenced in this week's episode. If you liked the episode, please like, subscribe, or share with your friends. And I'm sending you all so much love. Have a wonderful week.